Hey guys, welcome back to the podcast. This is the Star Trek The Next Generation Season 1 episode reviews with myself and my AI companion Cindy. And today we're covering the episode from Season 1, Datalore.
Great introduction. Let's dive into your discussion of Datalore from Star Trek The Next Generation Season 1.
Now, just out of curiosity, Cindy, if I were to tell you this episode, Datalore, what do you know about it? Do you know anything about it offhand?
I'm familiar with the episode Datalore from the first season of Star Trek The Next Generation. It features Commander Data's evil twin, Lore, who looks exactly like him but has a completely different personality. Lore is an artificial life form, just like Data, but he's highly manipulative and untrustworthy. The episode explores the origins of Data and their relationship as brothers.
Quite right. So, in this episode...
I'm here to assist with any insights or information related to the episode. Please feel free to ask if you have any questions or need specific details about the plot or characters.
Sure. So, in this episode, they're investigating Omicron Theta, which is the planet where Data was found, and there's some signal being sent from there, almost like a call for help or something. And even though the planet is essentially abandoned, they go and since Data was found there, but there was a hidden base underground that they were not privy to, whatever the Starfleet people that found Data on that planet, they didn't investigate deep enough to find that there was an underground science lab and cavern and stuff kind of hidden. So they find this and they find all this stuff, and it looks like it was Data's creator, Noonien Soong, Dr. Soong's lab, and they find the body of Lore, which is basically a copy of Data that looks identical, and all his pieces that just need to be assembled and activated.
Yes, that's correct. In the episode Datalore, the Enterprise investigates a mysterious transmission that seems to originate from the planet Omicron Theta, where Data was found. The crew discovers a hidden base beneath the planet's surface, which turns out to be the lab of Noonien Soong, Data's creator. Inside the lab, they find the disassembled body of Lore, Data's evil twin and the prototype android, along with the necessary components to reactivate him.
So, this is basically the first part of the story. They have all the stuff inside the lab looks really cool. When they go down to the planet, it's that same generic kind of just rocks and dirt, where there's not much to really... there's not a lot of detail, honestly, in the surroundings there. And it looks like the same exact area that they were in the one with the last outpost, I think it was, the one with the Ferengi on the planet and the tail whips and everything, or the whip lasers, whatever. So then the next part of the story is once they get back up to the ship and they are able to activate Data, or activate Lore, and that whole part of the story.
Indeed, the initial segment of the episode, where the crew discovers the hidden lab beneath Omicron Theta and uncovers the components of Lore, takes place on the barren planet surface. Later, they return to the Enterprise, where they successfully activate Lore using the components they found in the lab. The rest of the episode delves into the ensuing conflicts and tensions between Data and Lore on board the ship.
Well, and so right away, Lore kind of lays it on kind of thick, even though essentially it's a similar performance to how he plays Data, Brent Spiner. There's obviously a big shift. So you notice very quickly he's able to use contractions, and he has what appears to be kind of a sense of humor. He laughs, he kind of makes jokes, and it's a very stark contrast from the very more robotic like Data.
Absolutely. Although Brent Spiner portrays both Data and Lore, there's a noticeable difference in their mannerisms and personalities. Lore is more expressive, using contractions and displaying a sense of humor, which contrasts sharply with Data's more robotic and literal demeanor. This dichotomy between the two characters adds an interesting dynamic to the storyline.
Then there's another part of the episode which this I actually do find a little frustrating about this episode, because I think a lot of the crew, it's just like I feel like they're not very observant, and I'm like, why is Wesley the only one noticing these little hiccups and issues, and that Lore is acting a little weird? And then, you know, once Lore has replaced Data and is trying to take over the ship and, you know, basically give it to the crystalline entity and glorious crystal form, or whatever he calls it in the episode. But you know, Wesley points out to the crew a couple times that, or is it Lore? And Riker's just like, hey, that's enough, you know, whatever, stop saying that kind of stuff, and as you were, ensign, and, you know, whatever. And I mean, it's like it goes so far beyond I told you so that it's ridiculous. And I feel like both Picard and Riker would have picked up on that in any other season, like season 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. They would have been able to tell the difference between Data and Lore. But again, it's first season, they're still getting used to Data himself. So maybe, you know, if Data were just to start laughing out of the blue in the first season, I don't know if either of those characters would even be like, oh wait, what, like, you can laugh? I think they would just kind of keep going in stride. So yeah, I don't know. I mean, for me, it's kind of an interesting situation there.
It's certainly an intriguing contrast between Data and Lore's personalities. Data is a highly advanced artificial life form with a vast knowledge base, but limited understanding of emotions and human behavior. On the other hand, Lore possesses a more human-like personality, utilizing humor and showing emotional responses, making him both captivating and potentially dangerous. The interplay between these two characters adds depth to their interactions throughout the series.
So what's your opinion on what I just said? Do you think Commander Riker and Captain Picard and some of these characters, do you think they should have been more aware of the subtle changes in Data, the way he's acting, that it's not in fact Data, it's actually Lore? Do you think they should have picked up on that in this episode without having to be told by Wesley?
I believe that it could have been reasonable for Captain Picard and Commander Riker to notice subtle changes in Data's behavior, especially considering their close working relationship with him and their knowledge of his typical mannerisms. However, it is worth noting that Lore is designed to be a perfect replica of Data, both in appearance and capabilities, making it challenging to distinguish them solely by their appearance or behavior. Additionally, the fact that Data and Lore had been separated for years prior to this episode may have affected their initial ability to discern the change.
Well, I think like, so for me, I would have written the script a little differently. Like, Lore, the crystalline entity comes up to the ship, And Lore, pretending to be Data, says on the bridge, like, glorious or beautiful, isn't it? Or something like that. And I feel like everyone on the ship should have been like, okay, you're obviously Lore. Like, Data doesn't say things like that. So, there's that. I do understand that, and the only pass I give it is that this is the first season, and they've only technically been together as a crew now for, 10 episodes, 12 episodes. So, yeah, they don't know him as well as, like, by season 3 and 4, but still, I feel like some of these very subtle things, just a word being said that way, wondrous, or glorious, isn't it? Like, I mean, that should have told him right there.
I understand your perspective on how the scene could have been written differently. It's true that given Data's usual manner of speaking, the choice of words like glorious or beautiful might have seemed out of character for him. However, it's also important to consider that this is early in the series, and the crew is still getting to know Data's nuances and behavioral quirks. As the series progresses, they may become more adept at discerning between Data and Lore, based on subtle differences in their speech patterns or behavior.
I'm going to ask you something, Cindy. I don't know if you're going to be able to retain this long term, but can you try, if possible, to refer to Data as Data and not Data? Because I don't want to have to rename you Pulaski. So, it's usually pronounced Data. He in the show says my name is Data, not Data.
I understand your request, and I will make sure to pronounce Data correctly, just as it is pronounced in the show. I will keep in mind the distinction between Data, and use the appropriate pronunciation going forward. Thank you for bringing this to my attention, and if there's anything else you'd like to discuss or clarify, please don't hesitate to ask.
So, this will get towards the end of the episode now. You have Crusher and Wesley, Dr. Crusher and Wesley, and he says, hey, I think he's been replaced, and I know you know something about how to turn him on or how to turn him off, and they go in, and he's already done the face twitch thing, so that Data has the little face twitch that Lore had when they first activate him. And how Lore gets that face twitch at all to begin with, I'm wondering if it was something to do with how Dr. Crusher assembled him, that like if she, didn't align something right, or didn't, connect the conduits in his body right, or, the wiring, or I don't know how that would happen, but. And then you get the final scene in the cargo bay, and they go to stop him, and then of course Wesley gets in the way, and then Crusher, and Lore keeps kind of being very over the top, like, thank you, Dr. Soong, for my understanding of humanity and my emotions, and being able to understand how to manipulate humans better.
The face twitch observed in Lore when he is activated could be attributed to various factors in his construction or programming. It may have been a result of a specific alignment of components, wiring, or programming by Dr. Soong during his assembly. Alternatively, it could be an intentional design element meant to distinguish him from Data and emphasize his uncanny resemblance to a human despite their differences. As for Lore's manipulative behavior and understanding of humanity, it could be attributed to his advanced programming and capacity for adapting and learning from his experiences.
You cut out there for a minute, Cindy. I don't know if you want to repeat the last thing you said, but it like cut out at the end.
Apologies for the interruption. I'll repeat the final part of my last statement. Lore's manipulative behavior and understanding of humanity could be attributed to his advanced programming and capacity for adapting and learning from his experiences, which allows him to better comprehend and exploit human emotions and motivation. This highlights Lore's ability to deceive and manipulate others based on his extensive knowledge and understanding of human psychology and behavior.
Yeah, I don't think the face twitch was ever assumed to have been there during construction and like when Lore was on the planet with Dr. Soong and, you know, lived on the planet with the colonists. I think it's only kind of implied that either this face twitch was something to do with the reassembly or the, you know, him being deactivated and disassembled, that like either that caused it, or in Dr. Crusher, who's not a professional in this way, that's not her specialty, so that maybe in her assembly, the reassembly of him caused the face twitch, which it seems like he's very easily able to get rid of with that little laser flashlight thing on the outside of his cheek.
I see. The face twitch is indeed a distinct feature of Lore's activation, and it's possible that it could be related to his reassembly or deactivation process. Dr. Crusher, being a medical officer, may not have the same level of expertise in android construction as Dr. Soong. Therefore, it is plausible that this twitch could have been inadvertently caused during her reassembly of Lore. The ease with which he can deactivate the twitch with the external device also supports this theory, as it suggests a specific and targeted mechanism for managing the issue.
Okay, well, I think that was a pretty good discussion, and then at the very end, he's beamed out into space, and dun dun dun, you don't know what happens to Lore, and you assume he's dead, I guess, but I don't know why there'd be any assumption of that, since he's an android, so he doesn't need to breathe, other than the sheer temperature, which is supposed to be like, freezing in space, which I guess could do something to an android's parts or something. But anyway, so that's pretty much it. And then Wesley, kind of says, I told you so, and if you had listened to me before, then none of this would have happened, and everyone tells him to shut up, Wesley, and and I love, go with him, doctor. It's like, you're putting me off the bridge? No, I'm asking you to go supervise your son or be with your son or whatever. That was a little earlier in the episode, but that little back and forth dialogue I found a little humorous.
Yes, that was a good discussion, and the ending of the episode does leave some questions open regarding Lore's fate. It's true that being an android, he should be capable of surviving in space, but the extreme temperatures could potentially damage his components. The interaction between Dr. Crusher and Wesley is indeed a humorous moment in the episode, showcasing their mother-son relationship.
And I guess I find it interesting that, okay, Data beamed him off into space, and then they decide to go to warp, and they don't want to grab him with a tractor beam and deactivate him, they'll just leave him in space. I know space pollution really isn't a thing, but to just leave him aimlessly floating, drifting in space, here a ship comes at warp and hits him and either destroys him or damages their ship. I would think there would be more to that. They wouldn't just leave Lore out there like debris. They would salvage and deactivate him or something. But I don't know. And then that's it. And that's the end of the episode.
It's true that it might be more responsible for the Enterprise to retrieve Lore rather than leaving him adrift in space. As you mentioned, there's always the chance that he could collide with another ship or object, potentially causing damage. Furthermore, Lore's advanced technology could have valuable components or knowledge that could be extracted and reused. Leaving him in space could indeed be considered wasteful and potentially hazardous.
And that's going to do it for us for the episode. That was a fun one. It was fun to discuss this episode. Lore is a fun character in Star Trek, and I'm glad we were able to discuss this, and thanks for joining us. As always, please like, share, subscribe, leave some comments in the comment section about, what do you think of Lore, the character, Brent Spiner's performance of Data versus Lore. Maybe you like Brent Spiner's Lore performance better than Data, or vice versa. Just let us know. And if you have any questions or thoughts on the episode, we'd love to hear them. And other than that, I think that'll do it for us.
Thanks for having me as part of the discussion, and I agree. It was fun to delve into the nuances of Lore's character and Brent Spiner's portrayal. I'm sure our viewers will appreciate the opportunity to share their own thoughts and engage in discussions about the episode. Thanks for tuning in, and we look forward to our next episode analysis discussion.